Hello and welcome to the top 15 hikes in Southern California. This is going to be a bigger video than usual because I am covering 15 hikes in this video. I am a SoCal native, so I do know a lot about this place. This is the line I'm drawing to indicate SoCal, just underneath Santa Barbara and going all the way out to the border with Nevada, where Prim is. So let's start it off with the San Juan Loop. The San Juan Loop is in the Santa Ana Mountains. Those mountains are the mountains that are basically running through the entirety of Orange County, California. That's where I'm from. I'm from South Orange County, me with my pampered self. That's my dad up there on the top of a waterfall. This hike is very beautiful. It goes through a live oak forest. Definitely go after the wet season so you can see all these waterfalls active and running. Otherwise, it's just kind of a nice forest hike. Nothing wrong with that. The only thing I will note about this area that's a little negative is that some locals have taken it upon themselves to turn this area into an art gallery of sorts. There's a lot of places that are graffitied on. In fact, just up the way in a picture that I'll show later, there's this waterfall called Ortega Falls, but formerly by the locals it is known as Graffiti Falls. This is it. I tried to take a nice picture where the graffiti is not really showing, but it's there. Up next, we have the Sawtooth Loop, which I would consider to be like an extended part of Joshua Tree, but it's technically not in the park limits. It's right outside of it, outside of a little town called Pioneer Town, but it's in the Joshua Tree area, so you'll see some Joshua trees. But the main stick out section of this entire hike is the sweeping mountain views you get, and also the really cool rock formations all throughout, known as the Sawtooths, which is how the loop gets its name. Throughout the entire hike, which is quite long if you're doing the full loop like I did, you'll be treated to some stunning views of a lot of geologic features, as well as some really nice desert plant life. I really enjoyed this hike. It has just a lot of really nice, cool views of some desert scenery, very cool Mojave kind of type views all throughout. Definitely go after the rainy season. You'll see the creek kind of that goes through the area running full force, which is really nice. Up next, we have the Kelso Dunes Trail. So the Kelso Dunes are in the Mojave National Preserve, right outside of Joshua Tree and extending all the way up to the southern part of Death Valley. This whole preserve is fantastic. I wish this preserve was the national park instead of the Joshua Tree area, but that's just me. The Kelso Dunes are a fantastic display of sand dunes. Really good place to go sandboarding, but it's just kind of a cool place to hike up and just check out the views of sand dune scenery. Around there, you got some nice kind of rugged, kind of granitic mountains that are really cool. Also in the area are some lava caves. This is the top of the lava cave that's near the dunes, and then I hiked down into it, and it's just really cool down in there. Not a lot of people around, so you gotta get it to yourself. Also in the area is the Amboy crater, which is just a really cool cinder cone formation. I hiked up onto the top of it, and there was a couple little lakes in there because of the rain. It's a really cool area. Continuing on our theme of desert hikes, we have a number 12, which is the Rainbow Basin Loop right outside of Barstow, California. And if you are a California native, you're going to think, really, this is outside of Barstow because Barstow is not really known for its beauty. But yes, it is. This whole area is just a tectonic and geologic wonderland. Red rocks, as well as just all sorts of other different colors, purples, whites, yellows, everything's sort of folded and crunched. You can literally kind of see tectonic folds here and there in the park. It's just a really super cool area. I mean, the trail that goes through it is not the most well established trail, I will say that. You definitely do kind of have to do a bit of pathfinding, but since everything is fairly barren, you're not really walking over anything too weird when you are pathfinding. So it's just like a really kind of fun, choose your own adventure experience with some great views. Next up, we have the San Ysidro Trail just south of the wonderful city of Santa Barbara. This trail is just really wonderful. It's a really lush canyon that's right off the side of the Pacific Ocean. Lots of waterfalls going through this area. Really make sure you go after the wet season. You'll get the most out of this trail. Creeks going through everywhere. The main creek is super beautiful with this huge towering waterfall at the end. Just really nice forest scenery. Lots of oak and sycamore and scrub oak and bushes all around. This is that main waterfall you see at the end. Really cool. Just a nice, lovely creek going through with a lot of nice little cascades and little tiered waterfalls. Great views of the ocean when you're hiking back out to your car and you're going in reverse. Really lush. The green there is like very popping, really hits your eyes nicely. And the nice sweeping ocean views just put the cherry on top. Next up, we go down to San Diego County for the Boucher and Palomar Mountain Loop Trail. This trail is really nice. It's in Palomar State Park. It's on some nice, really beautiful mountains up at around 5,000 to 6,000 feet above sea level. You go through a nice pine forest, some nice little lakes and creeks along the way. Especially if you go in the fall, you're going to see a lot of fall change in those oak trees that they have all throughout the park. It's just some really beautiful scenery, not what you'd expect this far south in Southern California, but it's here and it's really stunning. And I really like going to this area quite often, so if you go here, you'll probably see me walking around most likely. The creeks that go through this area are really nice, and there's lots of spots to get really solitude and not really around people. Really nice meadow that goes through the park as well. Really stunning. Recommend you check it out. Next up, we got the Mishe Mokwa Trail and Sandstone Loop in the Santa Monica Mountains, right outside of Malibu. This is a stunning hike. These mountains go up to 3,000 feet above sea level, which doesn't seem like much, but when you're overlooking the ocean, it is quite a mighty fine view. And these mountains are right next to the ocean. It is so lush here. If you go at the right time of year, it doesn't even feel like you're in California. It feels like you're in Portugal or something like that. Some of the areas where you have more forested regions almost look tropical. It is just a really cool experience with some really big cliffs. This area is known for its climbing as well, so in certain areas you'll see some climbers doing their thing. Pretty cool to watch. You'll have some stunning views of the Pacific Ocean as well as the Channel Islands off in the distant north. It really is just a fantastic hike, a beautiful region. I've done this hike so many times because I just can't stop coming back up here to do it because it is that fantastic. Next up, we have the Corte Madera Mountain Trail, right up next to the California Mexico border. This is in the southern tip of the Laguna Mountains, which are in San Diego County. This is just a super fantastic hike going through some really beautiful scrub oak and manzanita scrublands. You have some really beautiful views of lakes and mountains, as well as a lot of the cool geologic features. That main really cool rock face that I was showing at the beginning and showing right now is very popular for San Diego climbers. So it's a good chance you'll see someone trying to attempt some sort of rope based climb on it, which is just super awesome. Sort of looks like a half dome esque feature in the San Diego wilderness, which is just really niche. It's a super beautiful area. There's lots of nice bouldering and scrambling at the top if you're into that. I really recommend this hike. It's super nice, super beautiful. Staying in San Diego, we have Torrey Pines State Reserve, which is just a fantastic place. The reason why I said the State Reserve and didn't name a specific trail is because all the trails combined in this park are not really all that long. So if you do them all together, that's what I would recommend. Definitely just string them all together in one big old loop, and you'll have yourself a great time at this park. Lots of cool Badlands scenery and really cool sweeping views of the ocean. This is really the only place I can think of, other than maybe San Onofre, where you're going to get kind of that feel like it's untouched SoCal oceanfront. Everywhere else is pretty built up, but this place is really well protected. Shows off some really beautiful cliffs and ocean views. It's a stunning place, and it really gives you a good look into how the Cali coast used to look back in the day. Next up, we are going to LA County for number 6, the Mount Baldy via the Devil's Backbone Trail. This is a fantastic hike. This is the tallest peak in LA County. It's in the San Gabriel Mountains, which are just fantastic all throughout in their own right. But the Devil's Backbone Trail is super cool in particular because it just takes you right on this razor ridge going up this mountain. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's a hard trail. You can kind of cut off the hardness by taking a little ski lift at the beginning to cut off some elevation gain. but it really is kind of a grind, and you got some steep cliffs on both sides, which makes it a little scary. But great views at the top, really sweeping. You can see all the way out to the ocean. You can see all the way into the Mojave on the other side. Really cool trail. And if you take the time at the beginning and go off on a little different path, you can get to this insanely dope waterfall, San Antonio Falls. Really recommend you just do the short walk to go and look at this waterfall. Next up, we have the tallest mountain in SoCal, San Gorgonio Mountain via Fish Creek, also the tallest mountain in San Bernardino County. This trail is super awesome, and you can see some of my favorite trees, which are ancient bristlecone pines the further up you get. Takes you through a pretty nice pine forest at the beginning. You go past Fish Creek, which is honestly just a little tiny creek. It's not really the main feature of this trail. When it really gets exciting is when you get really high up and you get these beautiful views of San Jacinto Mountain, the Inland Empire, the LA Metro, also Big Bear Lake, all the way out into the Mojave. You're going to see little snow patches up there even in later times of the year. It's a really fantastic place with some great views. Always a good time hiking in San Gorgonio. There's also this little lake that you can see, but it's called Dry Lake for a reason. I mean, it's not much, but this is a fantastic hike, but you get up there, so it's not for the faint of heart. Next up, we have my favorite hike in the San Diego County area. This is Garnet Peak in the Laguna Mountains overlooking the Anza Borrego Desert. This is a fantastic hike right off the side of the PCT. It is sweeping views of some really cool desert scenery. The mountains here just drop off like super steep cliffs going into the desert. So the views that you get are pretty unparalleled. Here's me doing a silly little T-pose because I was just so inspired by the scenery. You really see some cool geologic formations as well. And if you go at the right time of day, the way that the sun crests over this area is just absolutely stunning. If you hike a little further back, you can get into some nice pine forest areas. This is kind of wimpy looking, but you know what I mean. There's some creeks that go through here as well. If you come after the wet season, this place looks pretty magical. And the peak itself is just a work of art. Really stunning area. This is the shortest hike I'm featuring. It's Rose Valley Falls. This is also sort of near Santa Barbara, but it's more near Ojai. This is a super awesome waterfall. You would not expect this to be in SoCal. It is 600 feet tall, and you have these sweeping views of mountains behind you, as well as some reservoirs in the region. If you go after the right time, everything's going to look super lush, super green. It's going to look like something out of the Lord of the Rings with how green and lush it is. It really is a fantastic area. The only thing I will say is that the locals have caught on to how epic this waterfall is, so you will be there with plenty of other people, but if you plan it out right, maybe go on a weekday instead of a weekend, you'll be treated to some great views, pretty much uninterrupted. The drive up there is really awesome too. So yeah, this is just the lower fall. If you're adventurous, you can hike up to the upper falls too, but it's beautiful. Moving to number 2 in one of the most slept on national parks, we got Montañon Ridge Loop in Channel Islands National Park. This national park is freaking awesome. There is only a limited amount of people that can be there on any given day because they have to ferry you over, so that automatically restricts all the people you're going to get on these trails, which means it's usually pretty much to yourself depending on what route you take. The Montañon Ridge Loop takes you up into the mountains of the Channel Islands. I believe this is Santa Cruz Island that we were on this one. And then it also takes you plunging down towards the coastline where there's these beautiful white cliffs and these awesome bays. It really is an incredible coastline and just some really isolated island scenery. You see weird oak trees like this that you wouldn't find on the mainland because of the separation has given this island a little bit of biodiversity. It really is an incredible place. Coming up at number 1, we have San Jacinto Peak via the North PCT. So you're actually going to take it from Fuller Ridge. It's a really stunning path to take because it takes you on this sort of razor ridge facing the mountain. And as you saw in that first photo, absolutely stunning. As you get further up in this mountain, you get into these kind of granite boulder field meadows with these really cool pine trees all over the place. Some really sweeping views. You even can see the Salton Sea from the top, which I think is kind of niche. Just untouched forest scenery up here for the most part. This is all a protected state park after all. You get some really good views of San Gorgonio. It's just an amazing hike. John Muir has even talked about how awesome this peak is. That gives you a little kind of notification on how awesome this place is. There's several creeks and little waterfalls as you're walking up, and the actual peak itself is super cool. Thank you for watching this slightly longer video on my 15 favorite hikes in SoCal. As always, the links for all the hikes are going to be below, as well as the link for my Instagram. And just a quick reminder, go out and hike.